Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our show, our podcast, which is called The Controversy, where we tackle controversial issues, social illnesses, and a whole lot. We are here to learn, and we're learning every day. So, we are focusing today on our topic, which is marriage. Very interesting and very controversial. So, we just want to find out where is it coming from? Why do we have to get married? And all those questions. And we have a phenomenal guest here who will try and give us an insight into really what is marriage, where is it coming from? A theologian, a businessman, a politician, a philanthropist, Mr. Stebe. Welcome to the show, Mina.
Thank you very much for inviting me. It is a privilege and honor for me to be part of your third installment of your show. And yes, my name is Mozi Wawasten.
I thank you. I thank you, Mr. Stebe. All right, we will be discussing a very important topic, like I said. So we will be diving in. But before we dive in, we just want to alert you, the viewers out there, that the paradigm that is here in the show may change your paradigm into your life. So you must be prepared to understand and have an open mind because of we are not living in the box, we are outside the box. So welcome to the outside world of the box. So as we dive into our marriage topic, we would first like our guest to just briefly explain to us what is marriage and where does it come from, Mr. Stella?
Yes, thank you very much for this opportunity again. Um, Marriage is an old institution, Fetu. Some scholars believe that it's 4,500 years old, but at least Greek philosophers, which I tend to agree with them, we may say, marriage is as old as humankind existed, to be specific. And the word marriage itself, it's a Latin word. It derives from the Latin word, which means married. Simply mean providing a husband or providing a wife. So that's what marriage is. But again, it started in Europe, for that matter, and it was initially practiced in by Hebrews, by Greeks, and Romans as well.
When was this?
This was around um, first century, second century. So it is an old practice. But again, it was made fashionable during around 8th century by the Roman Catholic Church, and that's where it started. But initially, around first century, marriage itself, it was more of procreation. Perhaps I just need to put it there. It had. I know your viewers will be disappointed if I say it had nothing to do with love.
So it's for human creation.
It was more for procreation and later for creating alliances. So basically, that's what marriage is.
So marriage and love, they don't really.
Yeah. The origin of marriage itself, it had nothing to do with love at all.
Okay.
Yeah, it had nothing to do with love. It was a matter of a procreation, as I have said, and later it was developed into an alliance whereby we tend to make friendship, we tend to make families, we tend to make communities, and all that. But it had nothing to do with love. And I know why you seem to think that there is a correlation between marriage and love.
Wow.
You know that that concept was developed by the French.
Oh, to mix the two.
Yes, it was around 13th century, 13th century to be specific, and it was developed by the French. And those are the people who started to romanticize this issue, to bring affection to it. But its origin, it had nothing to do with love. It was just a matter of procreation. And of course, we must not shy away from the fact that marriage itself, it was very fundamental at the time because of yes, back then. Because imagine someone will deflower your daughter, athathe umntombi bakhe, and then decide ukuthi emyeke, and then he jumps to another one. So it was actually developed along those lines to actually put regulations and to regulate people to guide us, you know. And again, it has played a very important role. In fact, we must not shy away from that, because of, I always say, it starts with an individual, which will be a husband, and then the husband will meet a wife, and then from there is procreation, there are children, and then it becomes a family. And then when it becomes a family, now it becomes my family, and on your own you're starting a Nkosi family. And then if we had to combine these families, we build one community. And when we build one community, again, we build one nation. So there is a fundamental part of it.
So it's very important to get married.
Yes.
All right, because of it's a very broad topic, so we'll try and narrow it down to Africa and South Africa per se, because we are in South Africa, guys.
Yes.
So we're moving to the second segment now, which is the middle segment, where we say the statistics thereof of marriage currently. People are getting married, divorcing, and according to Google, there's about 53% of divorces going on. So is there still a reason to get married if ever there's divorce going left, right, and center?
You see, but I think we have lost the part, or we have lost touch with the fundamental reasons of the marriage itself.
What are the reasons?
And that is caused, or was caused, by one, colonization. It was called by imperialization, and I share the sentiment there to that. Like I said to you, that marriage it's one institution that is very important into our social lives. But yes, there is a decline into it, and there is a divorce, as you have given stats. And I want to put it to you that there is this wrong notion that people seem to think that marriage in Africa or in South Africa, it's a foreign concept.
So we are the origin somehow.
Remember, I said marriage exists. It predates history too. It's old. So there is this notion that marriage it's a foreign concept, and it's not. But marriage, it's interpreted wrongly. It's interpreted in a westernized way, in a colonized way. That's why you'd find that now we have lost the true meaning and the true essence of it. So that's where we need to start, because like I've stated that when now the religion, the church, the Roman Catholic Church got involved into religion, into marriage, got involved into telling us, or maybe describing, giving us a definition in a Western way, what was marriage, or what is marriage in nowadays. And that's where we actually lost touch in it. Because of, we must remember that marriage itself, it was very patriarchal. Meaning
African.
yeah, even in its origin in Europe, it was very patriarchal. I mean, a man would actually dictate everything. And well, there is a disadvantage of it. I mean, in when you look at it in a human nature, that it relegated women to nothing but slaves and objects.
So is it still relevant though if it does that to our counterparts, our women?
I may say that if we can really go deeper and try to understand the essence of it, there is relevance into it. And that's where we are going now. And I'm saying to you, um, remember that every human being that you see, it can be a prominent person, your politician, again, any criminal that you see, before he belongs to a community, belongs to any form of a class or whatever, he belongs to a family. He belongs to that institution of marriage, one way or another. That's why I strongly believe that there is a relevance into it. But the problem is when now it was not introduced to us, but interpreted to us in a Western way. And that's where the relevance of it kind of loses value, to say, because of we need to look at that. When Utifelias Shepstein started to regularize these things, started to put laws into it.
Our
Yes.
tradition.
Yes. We're speaking about customary marriage, traditional marriage.
And it is altered by this white man.
Exactly. Now it is altered by this white man who was a secretary of Natal Native Affairs around 1840. Then he started to codify it. You know, he started to say, no, kumele kukhishwe ilobolo iy'nkomo eziwu-10 and kube nenkomo kamama and all that. Then and people they want to think ukuthi, like I'm saying, ukuthi it was a foreign a concept, but it wasn't a foreign concept umshado at all. Umshado, it was one institution which was very important. Remember, even the kingship, even the chieftains, before you become a chief, you needed to prove to the community that you can be in control. You can be in control of your own family. You can. In actual fact, they will choose how many wives you have. How many kids you have, and then from there, being able to control that and to make it function, doing it well, then you were capable enough to lead the nation or even to lead that certain group at the time. So when this thing was now westernized, that's where we lost it altogether. And that's where the relevance of it becomes less paramount. And to answer your question maybe directly to the relevance of it now, it is not, Mfethu.
No.
Yeah, it's not. And it is because of it has been commercialized. That's number one. And number two, you will understand that, during this conversation that we are having, I keep on referring as umshado as an institution. Because for me, that's where we were supposed to even be taught to learn how to become a good man, how to become a good wife. But the yes, as well, after it was commercialized, then it lost the essence of it. And again, there was now a rise of feminism. There was a rise. I always say there was now an issue of equality, but it wasn't even the issue of equality to me. It was an issue of a competition between women and men,
Mm.
whereby women they compete with men, not only to be equal, but to be supreme.
Oh, they want
Yes.
to hate now.
Yeah. There is an issue of equality versus supremacy, and that's where it becomes less relevant. That's why we see now it brings, a lot of confusion. There's social ills in this what we call in our society. Again, I may say that it's one of the evils that was created by whites, by religion, particularly a Roman Catholic Church. Because these people, when they came here, they now came up with the concept of a monogamous relationship, which again, it was not, the origin of marriage. Even marriage per se, even in Europe, particularly in Greece, in Rome, these people they practiced to a polygamous relationship within the context of marriage. It was allowed. In actual fact, it was one essence of it. Remember, its mandate. It's more of procreation. So men were allowed to have more wives and concubines and all that. Even in an African context, it was believed, Ubuti, that was how it was practiced until the church got involved, and then they started to westernize it, and then they brought this concept of monogamous relationship.
We're learning, guys. So make time to watch our podcast, like, subscribe, do whatever it takes to make sure you are reminded of the next show as we tackle those issues, controversial issues. And right now we are still busy with the marriage and Mr. Steve here.
Yes.
Who, by the way, Steve, I believe, is a wooden African plate to serve food to the people.
Yes.
Okay, so you are serving us now.
I want to believe that I'm sharing my wisdom.
Thank you very much.
I want to believe that I'm sharing my wisdom and knowledge. And there is an important aspect of these shows to firstly do away with westernization of our things, of our culture. Like I said to you, that every time when I'm called to maybe have an opinion on the matters of Africa per se, I always say we have a problem as African philosophers and even theologians, because of we do not have a starting point to tell our stories, to tell our African history. Because remember what these imperialists did to us. They decolonized us, they deculturized us. So everything that we now tend to have, it's in dripses. We're trying to, but again, it's not even late to start building and drafting and going back to our ways of doing things.
All right. So one of the reasons for marriage, I believe, is stability. So do you think marriage does do stability? Does it live up to that name, to stabilize the community or the family? And so
No, Mfethu, it doesn't. And like I said to you, that you see all these social ills, you see all this criminality that it's happening. You see now there is an issue of GBV, there is an issue of rapes and all those social ills. And the failure of marriage itself is the contributor to these problems that we are facing. So I think it will be absurd to say a marriage itself in nowadays it brings stability, which it's supposed to. Like I
supposed
said,
to
yes,
bring
it is
stability.
supposed to bring stability because of, like I said, that I mean, it is the foundation of everything. But because of we had lost the essence of it really not playing enough role in terms of bringing that stability to the family, bringing that stability to the community and to the nation at large.
All right. Going forward into the future, which is our third segment of the show, do you think marriage will still be practiced going to the future?
That's funny enough. There was a study that was done years back,
Mhm.
and it shows that this institution called marriage had survived
Through times.
through times, had
Mhm.
survived, and I still believe that there is a possibility for it to survive. The West, but again, for me, it becomes less paramount whether it survives or it doesn't survive. The issue with me is its existence. Does it have a fundamental role into our lives? Does it change? The concept of life. Does it change the way we do things? Does it really bring? The families together. Does it really? Assist in building up communities? And I guess the answer is
It doesn't. All right. Part of the reasons for divorce, I believe, is the law that has entered so much into the affairs of two people. Now women are rewarded, I may say, for the divorce. They get to have an equal share with the men. And what's your take on that as an African, in an African paradigm?
yeah. You see, like I said to you, that in the beginning, it was very patriarchal. But with the involvement of the church now, with the involvement of this westernization,
The laws.
it changed altogether. And now it brought up the issue of rights, and then it brought up the third part, which is the law. And in South Africa, I think we have lot more marriages, but we can strictly concentrate on three, which will be your customary marriage that we are talking about, which will be your civil union that involved courts and all that, and your white wedding that involved the church and all that. And some people, they even practice all these three forms of marriage, which to me again, it's a very expensive and stupid exercise, because I guess you need to choose whether you go an African way or you decide to go in a civil union. Yes. So remember, Fetu, marriage itself, it was designed for families. So, meaning whatever it intended to do, it was more of internal affairs. So this external force now, which is the law, is the primary evil, which is destroying this marriage or this institution called marriage. And again, to answer your question, like I said to you, that the commercialization part of it, the materialization part of it, it now becomes an issue itself. That's why now there are laws. That's why people, they even afraid to even engage themselves into this matrimonial practice, because of people are afraid to ukuthi sengishadile unkosikazi uzothatha ukuthi athatha ukuthi athatha ukuthi, which again, it's because of it's not because of the marriage itself as an institution, but it's because of how is it interpreted now by the Westerns and to us. And again, we tend to practice it in a Western way. And that's where the problem is. But again, if we were to go back to the basics and say, I mean, we don't compete, we do not, I mean, subscribe to the notion of equality, to the notion of supremacy, then I think it can work. And again, it's also just to add on it, it's also a common cause for these homicides that you see, these suicides that you see, these illnesses, because of, I mean, I may say that it is also now doing injustice to individuals. Imagine, I mean, you are stripped of everything that you have worked for.
You're working, your house, you are chased away from your house, which you pay.
Yes.
And now you are
by external force. You are frustrated. You are frustrated.
Definitely, they are pushing you to the corner.
They are pushing you to the corner, you know. And yes, someone was saying to me, I mean, years back, he said to me, even in contrary and ironically so, even in religion, in Abrahamic faith, the word love is not mentioned in marriage. It was an issue of you taking responsibility as a man, providing for your family, and the wife, which now is your partner.
The firstborn.
The firstborn. Her role was to submit.
All right, so you are saying you are with this hierarchy of patriarchy where men are on the leading role and women must always...
I mean, I may not say I subscribe to it fully, but I may say it has worked.
It has been working for us.
It has worked. It has managed at least to bring families together, to build communities, you know, to bring, I mean stability at that particular time. Because again, there was an issue that there is this hierarchy. There is a man, there is a king, there is a chief, someone who's going to lead us. Because of, again, the confusion starts where everyone wants to be a leader. That's where the confusion starts. That's where I mean the divorces start. That's where, I mean, the longing of power, the longing of equality, the longing of supremacy. But for me, if ever I would really argue that if ever, well, my partner will understand her role fully and play her role fully, you know. And again, me as a man, I would not really being patriarchal because of the times have changed, but I will also understand the role that I need to play in this institution called marriage. And in that we will be able to raise, I mean, children, to raise, I mean, families, to build communities. Like I say, that it starts with you and your wife, and with me and my wife, and we become families, and then combined together we become in communities, and it goes to become, I mean, nations.
All right, so as we are going now in a lighter mode, now we are trying now to accommodate the youth. All right, how do you now feel about the pressure that is imposed onto us by the community to say you need to marry now? People go and make loans, and
it's very opportunistic, Vet. It's very opportunistic, and it's very materialistic. And it would be the matter of things have changed, and the reasons beyond this thing have dramatically changed. Now it's more about security. It's more about how people want to perceive you, how people want to see you out there. And yes, there is a pressure. There is a mounting pressure that actually is chasing us, you know, to to be part of this institution.
Okay. Are you married, Mr. Steve? If you, and if
Spiritually, I am. No, Fetu, I am one believer
Mhm.
of this institution. And well, at my home, everyone plays his or her role. So I may put it to you that I fully understand and I fully subscribe to the notion of marriage, but not the notion of Western understanding of what marriage is. At least I'm trying to at least to teach my partner that we have different roles that we need to play. So yes, I I I subscribe to it.
All right. So,
I don't know whether you are satisfied with my answer or not.
somewhat.
You can push it.
So, are we going to get an invitation soon?
Definitely, definitely. But not, yes, definitely you are going to get an invitation soon. Yet, Mfethu, I feel, you know, this issue of us being regularized, this issue of us that we need to legitimize something that is important to two people who are consensually in an agreement to do one thing or another. To me, it's a problem.
Mr. Stebe, do you think the likes of Oshara, did they got married, the kings before then?
Perhaps again, it will be the issue of interpretation. Like I said to you, Uti, we have a problem that our history was not documented. Our history was orally based. But again, I'm saying to you, Uti, this institution of marriage, it's not a new thing. Perhaps the interpretation of it may be new in South Africa per se, but uh, well, at least I know about Tushaga. He was not married to it. That one I can just give you an answer as a matter of fact. No, he wasn't married.
And Ushaga never saw the reason to get married.
No, he did not. He did not. But remember again, Ushaga Iena, he did not believe in family. He did not believe Uguti there should be someone who's going to take over his race. So which is really an opposite of what the humankind and human nature should be doing and should believe in.
All right.
So just to add on that, so if again you want to believe in the individualization of things, then it's okay. You don't have to take part into this a practice called marriage. If you want to remain an individual and individualize everything, then it's okay.
All right. They say a child that is raised by a single parent, mostly women, become delinquents to the community, and there's more nyawpes in that single family, single parent, than the two parents that coexist and they share those duties. So, what is your take on that issue to say, if ever without family, there's no the correct upbringing of the children?
I remember that the fundamental reason for it was not only procreation, but now there are kids involved, there are children involved. Now, it was supposed to ukuthi these people or labantwana laba kumele bakhule in an environment, that consists of a father who's going to play a leading role, who's going to teach these kids, how to behave. And again, there is an extent which we cannot really shy away from, which means ukuthi kwamfazi-ke manje okuwunkosikazi had an important role to play. I really don't want to be biased and really make statements like no, it is true, even though you said it's factually true, but I don't really want to be biased and say uh, uh, children who were raised by single mothers or who are raised by single mothers, they tend to be violent and all that. But I would rather prefer to say children who are raised uh, out of this institution called family, they tend to have problems of this and that.
So it is an important institution.
It is
yes,
it is an important institution for it because of again, I have a certain way of raising my kids, and at some point I would sit and think of my daughter and say, nah, but now she becomes more masculine, and in life again, and life in general, it can never exist or even coexist with masculinity alone. It also needs the feminine side of it. Exactly. So that's why I'm saying this is the issue of a hand and a glove.
Oh, okay, so it's the working together.
It's the working togetherness of it.
All right, going towards the end of the show now, we are fixing this now. What are the ways that we can try and do as a community to take away these laws into our affairs, to take away these Western views and go stick into the core of marriage now?
I think it's I mean the answer to the question that it's within that question. One, I think everyone needs to understand his or her role in an institution called marriage. That's the starting point. And we need to understand the fundamental part of it, the reason behind it, and we need to do away exactly with the issue of commercialize it. I keep on doing an error pronouncing this. Yes. Yeah. So that's the starting point for it. We need to focus more on building the family, on building the institution, and forget about the issue of materialization of this thing. Forget about what you tend to gain, what you tend to lose. Should you decide to marry me, or should you decide to divorce me? And so again, ekuqaleni, mfethu, there were laws which were internal laws. I may say, if ever you were having a problem or whatsoever, you would not really decide to go to an external force, which now will be your court and your church again. But perhaps you will call an elder to come and try to mediate the situation and so on. So I think that is a starting point. We should find a way of dealing with these problems in an African way. Finding a way to internalize these problems, to internalize this institution called marriage, because of, again, it's a very sacred internal affair which involves two parties.
All right, there are different reasons for people to get married. Some are for status, of course, they need to have a ring and all that. So what do you think maybe is the core, the real reason that people should get married, and so that they can be able to absorb this pressure now coming from all angles?
Well, it would be difficult to give a one blanket answer. I mean, in modern age.
Mhm.
It will be very difficult to give one modern one blanket answer into this modern age. But uh, again, Vetu, it's an issue of of not understanding what marriage is.
Mm.
And I'm saying the concept of marriage itself was for procreation,
Mm.
was for building alliances, and the issue of now being it materialistic and all that, it's again one of the reasons. I mean, people they now do not believe into this wonderful institution.
All right, as we lay foundation for the next topic, which will be ilobolo, and finding out exactly where is it coming from, where is it going, why uh, is it existing. Just to briefly tell us, Stebe, ilobolo nje, in a smaller way, why, what was it made for? What's the gist?
There are a lot of answers to it.
Mm.
One would be the issue that I'm talking about, the issue of commercialization of it,
Mm.
which it became very commercial. But the essence of it, maybe, and I'm careful with words, but I will dissect more into our next show. Uh, Really, it was an issue of compensation, compensating your in-laws for the wonderful job that they have done raising
The wife.
the wife. And in particular, again, remember now, there is an issue of alliance, there is an issue of building families, there is an issue of building the economy, there is an issue of building in the community. So I guess we need to um, um, really see Kabange along those lines. But again, I will dissect it further, in our next installment.
All right, as we are closing, the show is live, or it is produced every week, once a week. We try and post something just to let you know, guys, of what is happening, looking back into what we believe is the facts of the matters concerning the topics that we'll be discussing. So every week we will dive into different sectors, different topics, and try and find the roots thereof, to find a way forward and try to be out of the box rather than staying in. So thank you very much for your visit into our show, blessing us with the information, Mr. Steve. So we will play a game here called chess, which my master here
That's a very important part of this show, and I wish that every time, to every installment of this show, you will mention that this is my master.
Yeah.
Even if you one of me.
Yeah, let me teach my master a few tricks or two. All right, closing. We will let you know what happened the next show on the results thereof, because really it's going to take long. I know this guy takes long to play. So thank you very much, guys, for being with us. Don't forget to like, subscribe, follow us, that ring bell to remind you every time we post something new, and then we are together like that. So we are out like that. Peace. Thank you very much.